Hello. Yes, hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Weird Mind Newsroom, which I believe is episode 17. Well, we got some new releases, we got new trailers, and we got the news. So you know the drill, let's get right into it.
Oh, a ghost!
So we start off this week with the release of an all-new film in a mystery series, with Kenneth Branagh back again in the big, stylish mustache of Hercule Poirot, with A Haunting in Venice. This one is based on Agatha Christie's novel of Halloween Party, with this time revolving him trying to solve a series of murders while attending a seance in central Venice, and find out if one of the attendees is the murderer, or if there's some supernatural forces behind elements at play. Now, what I've seen from this movie is that it is probably the best reviewed in the series. First two kind of were sort of mixed grounds. First one is kind of liked, a bit mixed of the audience. Second one, slightly improved reception. A lot of audiences like that one better. And the third one, it seems to be both critically and audiences both like it. So I'll definitely be checking this out. I like the first two anyway. And yeah, it's more of a horror thriller than a bit of a mystery thriller from what I've read, but if you want to solve a case and see some spooky faces, then I'm sure you can check this one out in cinemas now. Now onto the new show's release, and one that you would not expect me to talk about here in the news stories, but this week our newest release is the second season of Welcome to Wrexham. Now this is a series, if you're unaware, is a documentary about the big Hollywood A-list stars of Ryan Reynolds, who you know as Deadpool, and Rob McElhenney, who you may know from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who bought a football team in southern England known as Wrexham FC, and basically helped become one of the biggest success stories in sporting history. Now the reception for both seasons, what I've seen, has been well received. It's been well liked because of the charm of the two main leads, the focus of the documentary about, creating the biggest sporting event in history with, one of those popular sports. I myself couldn't really give a damn about like football or anything like that, but I might give this a watch. Same thing as well with Ted Lasso. I'm going to give that a watch, and you can catch the two seasons now all on Disney+. So this next one is going to be very brief, but we have a sequel to one of the launch titles for Nintendo Switch, and that is with Bomberman R2. Now this is with a new party game where you're doing bombing bombardment multiplayer fun. That's basically this summary I can get off this game. Now reception has been modest at best, and seems to be perfectly fine for a simple party game. If you're in the mood for a bit of explosive fun, you can play it now on all consoles and PC, I believe. I know at least Switch anyway, and I think probably PS5 and Xbox have it, so if you want to check it out, you can check it out now. And just to round out this week's new releases for this week, we have an all-new game based in the Crew series from Ubisoft with The Crew Motorfest. Now this one will see you and your friends through locally or online multiplayer race across a scaled version of the Hawaiian city of Oahu. Now the reception of the course as well for this one has also been very modest, and I think The Crew kind of has seen improvement over time in the series. Like, started a bit mixed, it kind of improved over time, but I played a little bit now and again in the past. It's been all good. There's probably issues, probably controls or like visuals and stuff, but you get around with it and online. So if you want to have a bit of a fun time and race across a vast landscape with friends, you can play it now with all next gen consoles and PC. And with that now, that is all of the new releases that have come out this week.
Aquaman, King of Atlantis and Conqueror of Rogaine. I quit.
So to start off this week with the trailers, we have finally, just about 3 months out from the movie's release, we have finally gotten the first trailer for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now the plot for this one takes place about a few years after the events of the original, that sees Arthur take responsibilities as a father now, and the King of Atlantis, and so he must use his status and power to save the kingdom from the return of Black Manta, who is out for revenge against Arthur for the death of his father, and with the aid of the Dark Trident in his possession, he seems unstoppable. So he soon must go off and find the assistance of his exiled brother and unite the Seven Seas against a common enemy. Now, as I mentioned in the past before, this movie is mirrored in sort of concern and controversy. Basically, from its poor test screenings earlier this year that says it's the worst DC movie, to reshoots that just happened as recently as June, and of course the actors of Amber Heard, whether or not she's going to be in much of this movie or not. Now, she is briefly in this trailer, and I think what I've heard, she's like 10 minutes in the film, but I have no idea. But what I can say from this trailer, it does look pretty cool, and, it looks colorful, it's stylized. It may be effective and I'd be much excited given the change to DCU continuity, and that it's part of the old timeline, but I don't know where everything is now with the DCU, it's a bit mixed up. But you can make a splash and check this out, as I probably will, when it releases just in time for Christmas on December 20th. Now for what I would say is the final look at the next big historical drama film from acclaimed director Martin Scorsese, with Killers of the Flower Moon. Now this film is based on the true story of the murder of the Osage County indigenous people in Osage County back in the 1920s, after it was discovered that there was oil on their sacred land and that they would also lead to the formation of the FBI because of this murder, and basically how those indigenous people who survived get revenge. Now I always think that Martin Scorsese makes some really cool and stylized movies, and from what I see from the early reception, like the critical acclaim it's gotten, and from what I've seen from the trailers, it does look pretty great. And most likely I will definitely be checking this out, and you can too, when it releases in cinemas on October 20th. Now sometimes the moral of the story is sometimes dead is better, and this is what it brings to attention with our newest trailer for the upcoming prequel to Stephen King's Pet Sematary, with Pet Sematary Bloodlines. This film is taking place 50 years before the most recent adaptation of it, and set in 1969, where we follow a young Judd Cradnell as he discovers the local cemetery where the dead can live again, and discovering the horrors that can affect their lives. Now I may not have seen all of the recent new film, but I've heard a few say that the film is decent at best, but I'm sure this one will not be too bad, and you can see the rise from the dead when this releases on Paramount Plus October 6th, so about 3 weeks time. But if you want to wait a week after that, and on the same streaming service, we just before I start recording this, a new trailer for the reboot to Frasier. Now this of course is going to follow on of Dr. Jonathan Crane, coming back from Seattle and moving back to Boston to the location of the original series of Cheers, and exploring new life with his son and his son's girlfriend or fiance, and get him all misadventures and stuff like that. So new people, all familiar faces, but the same old Frasier. Now I had a look at it last night. It does look pretty decent, and I will probably give us a look when it releases on October 12th. Now what I would say is probably the biggest movie of this month, besides maybe Expendables, we have finally got the final trailer for the newest sci-fi epic from director Gareth Edwards with The Creator. Now this film is set in a future impacted by a war between humans and AI, so not much difference in the modern day of Hollywood, so to say. And we'll see an ex-Special Forces operative hunt down and kill the Creator's weapon that could have the power to wipe out humanity as we know it, if it falls into the wrong hands. Now it's not the most original plots, but the concept does look cool and stylized and visually looks great, and I'm sure it'll be something I will check out when this film releases in about 2 weeks time on September 29th. I did have 2 trailers from the direct I was going to place here, but I'm going to leave them to the news section. And now we're going to actually talk about some animation in particular, and this is coming to us from DreamWorks, as we received the second trailer for the newest entry in the Trolls franchise, with Trolls Band Together. And this new one will see the couple of Poppy and Branch team up with Branch's long-lost brother to go and rescue his family from 2 nefarious enemies, with one of them apparently being voiced by Amy Schumer, so you know there's probably definitely going to be Belle herself. And they must use the perfect family harmony to save the day and avoid them from falling into pop culture obscurity. Now these films are quite hit or miss, so to say. The first one was, I would say, is decent, in fact good. The second one was a bit overly weird, and essentially was just Infinity War for kids. And this one looks decent, and it seems to be likes of blending a lot of animations from 2D, 3D, all that sort of stuff, and as well that they're basically promoting that this is the first movie to have a new song from NSYNC in 20 years, because it's Justin Timberlake's old boy band. But I'm sure they'll get the band back together when this film releases same day as Killers on October 20th. And then to just wrap up the trailers for this week, we have an all-new slasher horror thriller from Blumhouse on Amazon Prime with Totally Killer. Now this film will see a killer return after 35 years after they murdered 3 teens, and comes after our main protagonist of 17-year-old Jamie. However, she is suddenly teleported back to 1987 just before the masked maniac first drew blood, and she must team up with her teenage mother to stop the killer and change the future. Now I do like this concept. I can't think of any horror film that has a time travel aesthetic to it. I could be wrong, maybe Happy Death Day had a bit to it. I don't know, but that's more Groundhog Day. And it seems something cool for a slasher film, and I'll probably give this a check out when this film releases in 2 weeks time as well, on September 28th. And with that now, that is all the trailers that have come out this week.
Oh, look at the size of that crook!
Now we start with a bit of surprising but very positive news, as Captain America star himself Chris Evans has got himself hitched, as he got hitched to his partner of Alba Baptista. Now the two of them have been together for just about 2 years now, since late 2021 when they secretly started dating. They became public a year later in November of last year, and then they finally got themselves married there in a private at-home ceremony just last weekend. Now it's nice to see such a happy couple, and I wish them all the best on a long and happy relationship. But I'd like to know what your thoughts on them getting married are, and are you happy for them as well? because I feel like anyone could be happy for a nice married couple. Let me know who you think about them in the comments down below. Now talking something that was mentioned briefly at the end of last week's video, as it was announced as well in the mix of that FNAF news content from last week, that we're getting a sequel to this year's Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. That's going to go bigger in budget as well as in graphic material. Now we do know that the creatures of the 100 Wood are about to get slightly bigger of a pack, as another iconic character from the series is about to make their debut as they enter public domain in the new year. Now it was announced that the bouncing tiger of Tigger will be becoming part of the hunt, as it was unveiled earlier this week of what the character looks like, as you can see here. And I will say, if I gotta go for one thing, I do like the concept of these characters by design, and Tigger does look really menacing and someone that will murder you without remorse. I do wonder if we will see a lot of the other characters that will show up as well over time, like Rabbit, Kanga, Roo. I know Eeyore was murdered by Pooh and Piglet apparently in the first movie, and even the Heffalump maybe might make an appearance. I don't know, but I guess we'll have to see how all this turns out and this series does successfully. But what are your thoughts on this version of Tigger, and do you see other characters in that universe make an appearance as well? Let me know what you think of the design and of your thoughts down below in the comments. Now for a rare news story on my channel, but we're talking about rare merch clothing news that also comes from the end of last week. A few had to be delayed because there was a lot of news and everything was getting a little overlong. So just deal with this anyway. But we are talking about Crocs, particularly the wearable kind, not the ones you see in the bio, like look at the size of that Croc. They are the simple house shoes or summer sandals type shoe, and some of the most famous pair, of course, is the Lightning McQueen pair, so much so that the petitions were made over time to have them in adult sizes too. Does anyone know where I can get one? I want a pair. Well, now it looks like a new pair is about to enter the competition, and that's of course with everyone's favorite ogre of Shrek. As it was announced that the ogre is getting his own form of Crocs that will come in with his signature ears, a large button nose, and with a brown furry backstrap, and all in the signature light lime green color that he's known for. Now they do look like they're really weird looking form of Crocs, but I have seen weirder looking shoes in the past, and I'm sure they will sell and they will be a demand for them in a short while before you go on eBay and they cost like $1,000 for a pair of those Crocs shoes because they sold out quick. I got intrigued to get a pair myself, but I don't know, unless it's just for kids. If they are, you're missing the market here, guys. But what do you think of these Crocs in particular, and if given the chance, would you buy a pair of them yourself? Let me know what would you think if you would or not down below in the comments. Now on for some tech news that I feel I'm going to get a bit of backlash on probably in some capacity, but earlier this week, of course, with being mid-September, we got the announcements from Apple about their all-new range of products of iPhones and Apple Watches, and it's still a question where there's pretty much a lot of very little change across the last few versions besides maybe the color and slight change maybe the camera and stuff like that, but I don't really see much of a difference between the last 2 or 3 variations. That's what I'm saying. Most I probably have seen new updates is slightly lighter by about 1 ounce, and the new iPhone will now work with USB-C cables, which has been a staple with most phones since about 2015. My only reason I bring this up is that they look the exact same every year. There's always a complaint with the device that something is changed or moved or added that was already on other phones brands a few years back. It just seems to be a case that like they're kind of either a step ahead, but also a step back in some other stuff. Now, I'm not saying that Android is better or other phones or brands are, but I prefer them because they try with new designs and different methods, like, you know, design changes, and they do show they actually make efforts with like updates on their cameras and other technology stuff and like battery life and stuff like that. And like in particular, there's some innovative stuff as well. Like one phone I do want to get is the Samsung flip phones, which I do want to get because it's super cool and brings back to the olden days, like the early 2000s, when like, you know, having a flip phone was the shit. But either way, I know many will get one of these phones when they start releasing from next Friday, and we'll get the same concept again next year in particular. So unless they basically come out of nowhere and say Apple's getting their own flip phone, then you have my interest. But I'm probably gonna get flack for this anyway. But what are your thoughts on this? Explain to me, Dev, if anyone, of what really is different with these phones every year. I just want to know, if you know anyway. But do let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. So our next news story is talking all about directs. In particular, we got 2 big directs this week, courtesy of Nintendo with Nintendo Direct and PlayStation with their State of Play. And we have a fair few to go through, so I was going to fly through both presentations and talk about each one on their own. So we'll start with Nintendo. They provided some variety with a new look at the second piece of DLC for Splatoon 3, a new Mario vs. Donkey Kong game coming out in February, which I possibly think is a remake of the original from what I've been hearing online, but I have no idea. There's a new racing game, there's a lot of different style of RPGs from pixelate to the fantasy to all variations. announced. There was a lot of RPGs this direct. A lot of times as well, there's always a lot of something. So there's a lot of RPGs in this one. Another one was a lot of farming games, but you get the gist. We got another new look at the Mario RPG remake, Prince of Persia 2.5D gameplay footage of the newest game that was coming out. We got the unveiling of the title and the footage of the newest Princess Peach game, which is now called Princess Peach So Time, where she rescues stage plays from the evil Queen Great. We got the announcement that the original trilogy of Tomb Raiders 1, 2, and 3 will all come to the Switch with the option of playing the pixelated and the new updated visuals look. That's coming out on Valentine's Day. Mario Kart 8 Booster Pass finally got unveiled of some of the new characters and one of the courses, which is, I believe, Daisy Pier. It's from Mario Kart Wii. We also got 4 new characters. We got Diddy Kong, we got Pauline, we got Peach, and we got my boy Funky Kong. There's also a physical version coming out in October. We got announcement that Trombone Champ is getting a Switch release that came out that day. Among Us is getting a new map in a weird mystical jungle. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is getting a summer release day next year. F-Zero is coming back as a Battle Royale system with F-099, which is probably going to be a bit nuts. And then Direct ended with the biggest shock reveal of a remake to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door coming out next year. I couldn't believe myself when I saw it myself. Now, it is a little bit of a mixed bag of options with a lot of RPGs coming out, but some of the other announcements I think were some very good ones. I'm looking forward to them myself. Now, they didn't mention anything with Metroid, in particular Metroid Prime 4, or even that Zelda HD port that keeps appearing as rumors all the time, but I'm sure we'll probably get somewhere down the lines announcements or there's the next Switch console, who knows. But on the Sony side of things, we got a lot less, but still a fair amount of them. We got a release date for the next part in the Final Fantasy VII remake that's coming out on February 29th. They gave us a look at the power of the PS5, the new look at the open world of Spider-Man 2. Resident Evil 4 remake is getting a VR port in the winter, and its DLC with Ava is coming out next week. Tales of Rise is getting a DLC expansion in November. Helldivers got some boss battle gameplay. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora received a new story trailer as well as a bit of gameplay in there mixed into it. Foam Stars, which is a Splatoon knockoff, is getting a beta announcement coming out next month. A game from the co-op developers called Baby Steps looks very goofy and got some gameplay footage there over here. Hunky Star Rail RPG will be releasing October 11th on the PS5 after being on iOS and Android for a little bit. And then also, to wrap it up, they announced 3 new color shells and controllers for the PlayStation 5, which in particular is Volcanic Red, Cobalt Blue, and Sterling Silver. So, while it's shown off some more big company titles and AAA games, it's a lot of stuff we've already seen already. I think there's probably 1 or 2 that was new, but a lot of it seems to be stuff we already knew was coming out. Now, both had their issues, but I want to know what your opinions on both of them are. And which announcements were you the most excited about? And in particular, which ones were you most excited about? Let me know what you think of it all down below in the comments, and let's have a discussion about all the things that were announced. So this one I'm going to keep short, but a little over 2 weeks ago, we got the release of the Netflix anime adaptation of One Piece. Now, the reception for this one was well received by both critics and audiences, and now it was announced just earlier this week that a second season is coming out for the One Piece. So it will continue the adventures of Luffy and all of his pirate crew, but we don't know when it's coming out. Of course, with the ongoing strikes, we have no idea. So I'm likely thinking either the end of next year or 2025. I'm thinking at least 2025, so about 2 years' time. But what are your thoughts on this? Are you excited for a second season of One Piece? And just asking as someone who hasn't really gotten into the original series, is this reboot a good starting point for the series? Because I have no idea. I kind of want to know for myself. But let me know what you think of it all down below. And then just to wrap up our final story for this week is a little bit of a discussion I talked about a little while ago. And this relates, of course, back to the HBO series of The Last of Us. Now, I mentioned back in a post a couple weeks ago that one of the frontrunners that was talked about for the role of Abby in the second season was with Australian actress of Sharon Woodley. And some went with it, that in particular, and I think is a good fit for the role. But now there's also been rumblings going around that before the strikes happened, there was a second known actress that was in talks to join the cast, and a big name in particular as well that you may know. And this, of course, was with actress Florence Pugh, who you may know as Yelena from Black Widow, Paige from Fighting With My Family. She's going to be in the new Dune movie as, I think, the princess. And the most recent thing, she played the character of Jean Tatlock in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Now, this was all news before the strikes happened, of course, so unless one of them was cast in the role beforehand is anyone's guess. Well, unless it's a case similar to the game where you had someone voicing and mocapping the character for the face and just the whole voice and stuff, which was done with Laura Bailey in the game. And then the mocap of the whole body model was with athlete Colleen Focht. So it could be a case with similar for both of these characters. It could be Florence Pugh as the head and voice cast, while Sharon would be like more the body build. So we'll see when the strikes end with all the writers, actors, visual effects, and all the other parts of the studios actually get a fair, decent wage, but we'll have to see when we learn finally of the casting, when they said they're ready to go once the strikes end. But what do you think of these castings, and do you see either of them taking on the role of Abby? Let me know what your thoughts of the rumor castings are down below, and as always, that is all of the news that have come out this week.
Now what?
And now with that brings us to the end of episode 17 of Weird Mind Newsroom. And I hope you enjoyed me rambling for probably most likely over 20 minutes again, because when I wanted to make it shorter, it somehow ends up being longer. Anyway, some updates for the channel. Okay, so I have one review already out, which is the Fast X review. You can check it out on my channel now. I hope by the time I finish editing this video and uploading it, that the second review that I had planned, which is going to be the Flash review, is available for you to check out yourself as well. I'm currently writing away at one or two other reviews. In particular, I'm starting with Puss in Boots. I'm going to do a few animated ones, and then I've planned myself that I'm thinking next after these animated ones, I'm going to do the Barbenheimer week. I'm going to do Barbie and Oppenheimer both back to back, record them back to back, and get them both done, as well as getting my special someone on the horn to help me with that recording for the Barbie one. Other bits, I'm going to try and at least figure out some other ones for, the long form videos. If you have any suggestions, let me know down below. I am going to try and get started on the rewatch-a-thon, the live action movies. I might, if there's nothing else on my channel on YouTube and stuff, I might give a look into maybe the first two of like the Dalmatians movies. I need to look up the Jungle Book one, but I'll have to find that one myself. And other than that, that's what I think. I might try and do some shorts as well. Might figure them out. I'm going to do like a kind of quick rundown of like maybe a minute long videos of me giving a quick rundown of my opinions on some films of the last year, maybe even some shows as well, and put them into 1 minute long videos. And then when I announce if there's some I will do a full review on or a video on, I will let them in the same video as well. But anyway, I think that's where I'll end it for now. So I hope you enjoyed listening to me rambling for a little bit longer there. If you did, why not simply like the video, comment below on all the opinions of what was discussed this week, and I hope to see you in the next one. And if you did, share it around to people that may not have seen my stuff and get a new audience, and even subscribe if you haven't already to my channel. I appreciate every single piece that you do. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramblings. You all stay being wonderful people, and hope you have a great day every day, because you all deserve it. Anyways, that's me done for today, and I will see you all in the next videos. So take care, everybody, and goodbye.